This film is rooted in real history, and it takes us back to 1585. During this time, Spain was a world power, and its king, Philip, was fueling a religious war across Europe. The lone resistance came from England, under its Protestant queen, Elizabeth. Elizabeth's court is nervous about Mary Stuart, the Queen of Scotland. Mary, who has many Catholic supporters, also claims to be the rightful ruler of England. But Elizabeth is committed to not penalizing her people for their faith, as long as they behave. Meanwhile, Mary is in a British prison but still has a network of supporters and servants. Elizabeth's advisor, Sir Francis Walsingham, points out that Elizabeth's single status is causing concern among her people. Mary has a son, which strengthens her claim to the throne. But Elizabeth has no plans to marry. While attending church, Elizabeth and her entourage pray for strength for the challenges that lie ahead. At the same time, Spain's King Philip is unhappy with Elizabeth and plans to build an enormous fleet to conquer England. Undeterred by public opinion, Elizabeth is not afraid to mingle with her subjects. She handles routine royal matters and even meets foreign envoys. One of them is the young Archduke of Austria, a cousin to Philip, who proposes marriage to Elizabeth. Also seeking an audience with the Queen is Sir Walter Raleigh, a pirate known for attacking Spanish ships. He asks for Elizabeth's approval and funding to establish an English colony in new lands. Elizabeth is skeptical of Raleigh's proposal. After their meeting, Spanish delegates warn Raleigh that King Philip will not let his actions go unpunished. In England, conspirators like Thomas Babington and Francis Throckmorton are busy planning to place Mary on the throne. Meanwhile, Walsingham's brother William arrives from Paris and shares news about the chaos in Europe. Elizabeth's favorite maid, Lady Bess Throckmorton, helps her get ready for bed. Elizabeth is worried about the signs of aging on her face. During a dinner, a suitor named Charles awkwardly reads love poems to her, but Elizabeth is not impressed. She tells Lady Bess that she is more interested in Raleigh. Lady Bess later admits she also finds Raleigh interesting, and Elizabeth agrees to a private meeting with him. Walter Raleigh shared tales of his risky sea voyages and explorations with Queen Elizabeth. He spoke of the New World and the perils he faced. Elizabeth found his stories gripping. Walter was looking for funding for another exploration and to start a new city, but the Queen didn't immediately say yes. Elizabeth and Walter soon found themselves enjoying a horseback ride together. The Queen liked his company, but not everyone at court, especially Francis, approved. At the same time, followers of Mary Stuart, like Thomas Babington and Francis Throckmorton, were in secret contact with her, even though she was closely watched by her jailer. As Elizabeth reflected on her life, she felt a sense of loneliness. She felt that people at court, including Walter, cared more about her status than her as a person. Her talks with her maid Bess were her only emotional support. Bess had a secret meeting with her cousin, Francis Throckmorton. He wanted her to convince Elizabeth to allow their family back at court. Bess doubted that would happen. Elizabeth started spending more time with Walter and felt a strong attraction towards him. One evening, royal guards arrested Francis Throckmorton. Elizabeth found out that there were plans to attack her kingdom. Spanish envoys thought she deserved it for her friendship with a pirate. Angered, Elizabeth kicked them out. She was not scared of King Philip or his army. Walter sensed her distress but didn't fully understand it, leading to a tense moment between them. News reached Elizabeth that Spain was almost ready to launch their fleet. An astrologer told her a big war was coming. Around this time, Walter was thinking of leaving the royal life behind. But when he asked for the Queen's permission to leave, she instead made him commander of her personal guard. Walter was unhappy about this. Elizabeth confessed her fears about the impending war and told him he was needed. Francis Throckmorton was later executed publicly. Walter found Bess praying and upset. She felt guilty for not helping her cousin. Walter comforted her, saying she couldn't have changed the outcome. They shared a passionate kiss. Mary Stuart was meanwhile forbidden from sending letters for her supposed safety. Bess and Walter continued to see each other secretly, unknown to Elizabeth. The queen later admitted to Walter that she was tired of ruling. She even tried to teach him how to dance with Bess, which made the young woman uncomfortable. Elizabeth started to sense a romantic tension between her maid and Walter. Elizabeth finds herself envious of the youthful and attractive Bess. In another part of the castle, Mary Stuart sends a secret message to her supporters, urging them to move forward with their plans. William, it seems, has also sided with the Catholics and aims to put Mary on the throne. Francis begins to suspect his brother William and is ready to act against him, despite his love. Unaware of a plot against her life, Elizabeth and her entourage go to church. As they are praying, Thomas Babington bursts in, gun in hand, aimed at Elizabeth. To his surprise, she shows no fear. The gun fails to fire, and Thomas is swiftly captured. Mary Stuart is informed of the failed assassination and is distraught. This leads to her being accused of treason. Mary insists she had no part in it, but then is shown evidence of her secret messages to the Catholics. Realizing she's been set up, Mary is devastated. Thomas and his fellow plotters are jailed. Francis confronts a Jesuit about the unloaded gun, receiving only a mysterious smile. William is in despair, but Francis tells him he will be secretly sent to France, never to see his brother again. Bess informs Walter that a distraught Elizabeth wishes to speak with him. Walter finds Elizabeth in tears, crushed by Mary's betrayal. Although she had wanted a lighter punishment for Mary, Francis insists now is the time for justice. During her trial, Mary states only God can judge her. Meanwhile, King Philip of Spain hears of Mary's treason charges and asks his daughter if she wants to be Queen of England one day. Mary learns her execution is set for the next morning. Elizabeth is still wrestling with this choice. On the day of the execution, Mary ascends the scaffold with dignity. Elizabeth is overwhelmed with grief, realizing she can't change what's about to happen. Mary is executed. Philip, furious over Mary's death, believes Elizabeth should be removed from the throne and calls his army to war against England. Francis tells Elizabeth he thinks Spain knew Mary's letters would be discovered, giving Philip an excuse to wage holy war. As Philip's fleet sails towards England, Elizabeth shares her somber feelings with Walter. She regrets never experiencing love and asks for a kiss, the first and last one she will receive. Before departing for war, Walter learns that Bess is pregnant. Because of her social standing, she can't stay at court and plans to leave for her mother's house. Elizabeth is busily devising a battle strategy to face the looming threat from Spain. The Spanish forces had the upper hand in numbers and might, causing Elizabeth's advisors to warn her to brace for the worst. As the Spanish Armada sailed closer, the Queen was tormented by bad dreams. Meanwhile, Bess and Walter wed in secret, enraging Elizabeth when she found out. She even slapped her trusted maid, Bess. She questioned Bess about the child and, finding out about the secret wedding, ordered Walter arrested and sent Bess away for betraying her trust. Seeking guidance, Elizabeth turned again to her astrologer, but received no solid advice. Her fear escalated as the Spanish fleet was spotted. Rallying her advisors, she gave a motivational speech, saying they couldn't afford to lose. She ordered all prisoners, including Walter, released to help in the battle. As a skilled sailor, Walter took charge of the royal fleet. News came that the battle had commenced and that they were already at a disadvantage. Despite the initial losses, Walter used clever strategies to combat the stronger Spanish fleet. On land, Elizabeth planned to lead the troops herself, inspiring them greatly. A fierce battle unfolded on both sea and land, with heavy losses on both sides. A storm gave the English forces an advantage. Following Walter's orders, they set their own ships on fire and sent them towards the anchored Spanish fleet. The tactic worked, resulting in the defeat of the Spanish forces. After the battle, Elizabeth found solitude. However, it was Elizabeth's forces that had won the day. She took off her armor and walked barefoot on the shore, looking at the defeated enemy ships in the distance. Upon hearing of his defeat, Philip accepted it as divine will. Elizabeth succeeded in defending her kingdom. Soon after, Francis became sick. Elizabeth comforted him, calling him an old friend. Later, she found out that Bess had given birth to a son, and she extended her blessings to Walter and the child. She had already forgiven Bess and wished her well, though she regretted never having children herself. Despite this, Elizabeth was proud of her independence and devotion to her subjects. Under Elizabeth's reign, England entered a period of peace and wealth.